So it both blew apart my personal life, but it needed to, because I was 100% going at that. Small town girl, didn't know anything. My eyes were widened by the theater world. For me, it was like just then kind of years of exploration into what it means to be an independent woman out on her own, being an artist. And that was kind of my main priority for years after that.
Welcome to Out of Frame, a Nerdy Filmmaker podcast, where I sit down with actors and creators from across the entertainment industry discussing the successes and struggles within their stories. My name is Julian Stamboulieh, aka the Nerdy Filmmaker, and today we are joined by Patricia Summersett, an actor who, after years in Montreal, traveled to try her hand in LA and ended up booking one of video games' most prestigious and iconic characters, Zelda. Hi, Patricia.
Are we recording?
We sure are.
Sure.
May I first say, wow, what beautifully clean teeth you have. Not a crumb in sight.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
They are there,
They're there?
whether or not you can see them. The pecan oatmeal cookie is somewhere still in my body.
The ghost.
The ghost of the cookie.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, Patricia. Thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, nice to meet you
Nice to meet you.
for the 500th time. Thank you.
But it always feels like the first.
502. Oh.
So you are an actor, but you weren't born an actor.
That's
Tell us.
debatable.
Oh, wow. Okay. Actors are born, not made.
I was born in Michigan. I was born to a family of, I'm one of four girls. I have three sisters who are all, I'd say, artistically inclined. Like they all dabble or do serious things in the arts. So I was raised in an environment in rural Upper Michigan where we played outside a lot. And my parents were supportive of all of our singing and dancing and fantasizing in the world and playing with rocks and sticks and stuff.
Did they come from the arts? Was it like in the family to begin with?
No, they did not. My mom, although I say that, my mom was a big champion of our arts background, but she herself ended up becoming an occupational therapist. Had kids pretty young, but her and my dad were high school sweethearts. My dad's a dentist. My mom is more of a restless artist. She's a painter now. She would have liked to have been an artistic medical illustrator, but that was not available to her. And her parents were not supportive of that. They were looking to help her do something stable. So she went into something that she felt maybe wasn't going to make us do if we didn't want to. So I was supported.
Is it you said it's a rural town that you grew up in. Were there a lot of arts there, or was that not really a thing? Okay.
I mean, we grew up on like Disney. I wish I'd grown up on like Miyazaki films and stuff like that. That just was not the case in rural Upper Michigan. So it was like Disney, local, like little ballet recitals and things like that. And then otherwise it was basketball. The first sort of thing that I did that was artistic was figure skating, which then followed me through much of my young life into my adult life. And that was my mom actually started a figure skating club in our town because it was just hockey and basketball. And she was looking for something for us to do that had a different kind of structure and that was maybe less sort of like masculinated. And constructive, and something we could do at the rinks, something we could do with what was around us.
That's great. She started the club basically for you in a way to have. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and there were a lot of people that wanted to do figure skating. There just was not much going on there. So it was an incredibly constructive thing for her to do. And to this day, that club still thrives.
Was she the coach there?
She was one of them, but she herself wasn't really a figure skater, so she was sort of like making it up as she went along and finding resources.
Yeah.
I know.
Sure, spin.
Yeah. She did some adult figure skating and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did your sisters skate too?
We all skated.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Actually, one of my sisters eventually became, we were both competitive ice dancers, but my sister Jane, who's now a dentist and an outdoors woman, I guess you could say, she was very competitive and moved around in high school for it. And then eventually, I think her top rank was 6th in the US for ice dance.
Holy moly. So you went through elementary and high school Although I guess it's not the same. It's not elementary and high school there. There's all the different levels. Not like what we call it here, elementary and high school. There's like middle school and all that. So you went through all that schooling still in Michigan?
I did, yeah. I went to two separate schools. Started in the tiny town of Lawrence, where I grew up. And then halfway through my 9th grade year, I was transferred to a different school. Because I needed to be in a different school system because things weren't going so well. I needed more infrastructure and I needed to see a way out of that tiny town. And it was really kind of a dark time. And so my mom was like, I need to get you out of this town because you're not doing well. So she moved me to a slightly better, bigger school that was like an hour away. And I stayed with my former figure skating coaches from that slightly larger town and then finished my high school there.
And was that the plan, was to continue figure skating as a career?
The figure skating thing actually, because it really does tie into my acting actually. It's something that, it's the reason I came to Canada. It's the reason I moved to Quebec. It's the reason I'm here right now and continues to be something that I use through my acting. The figure skating was something that I developed when I was younger. I was quite competitive, quit by the age of like 13, and then didn't do it for most of high school. It wasn't until senior year again where I aggressively picked it up and was on this kind of like path to live the most impassioned life I possibly could, and decided that I was going to pair skate, or not pair skate, but ice dance, where you need a partner. And then I moved to Florida because I found a partner there. Instead of going to university right away, I spent a year in Florida training with a partner, living in his closet, weirdly.
Like literally?
Like literally, like my bed was in a walk-in closet. And we were all skating at this large multiplex that weirdly housed all of these international ice skaters and really cool coaches. And that's where I met a French-Canadian guy who I eventually married. He was down there skating with his sister. He was also living in that house, not in a closet. Okay. He had his own room. But we connected, and within like 9 months, they left. We were in love. My partnership had dissolved. It was all very dramatic because figure skating is. And then we all moved back to Quebec because we were like, well, our relationship is just getting going. Why would we just suddenly like break it apart? Because it was so, intense and magical when you're 18.
Oh boy. So you moved to Quebec when you were 18?
19.
19. All right.
He was going to be training here. I was going to find a partner and train here. He skated with his sister, so I wasn't skating with him. And I knew I could learn a different language, follow my heart, also go to school. I could do all these things in and around Montreal. So I was like, let's do that. No idea what Quebec was. It's just, most people in the U.S. don't know what French Canada is.
Any kind of culture shock when you arrive here?
Oh, yeah. We can leave it there. No, I moved here in 2001, and my first semester was September 2001. So 9/11 happened, and I really realized very quickly that I was not in the U.S. at that moment. Yeah. And I also realized that the family that I was in had a very different perception of what that meant because they weren't American. And my parents were freaking out because we were so far away and cell phones were very, I don't know, like basic at that time. Not like, we almost forget, like we didn't have the same kind of communication standards. But yeah, that was a big culture shock in a large global way. I started to become, I think for a while I went through like an anti-American phase in myself in an attempt to sort of redefine and fit into my surroundings. That's not the case anymore. I really feel like I belong to both countries because I do. And a part of me is very much, I straddle both countries. That sounds, I spend time and I jump back and forth across the border a lot. And I like that. But for a long time, I avoided going back to the US because I think I was just, I was around a lot of people who were very critical of the US. And it influenced me quite a bit.
Got it.
So it feels very youthful to say that now. Like I went through this whole sort of like, what is the US? But it's true, I did. And it's ultimately why I chose to stool. It's ultimately why I chose to school in London and not go back to the US for my master's as well. I was like, there's so much more I have to understand from a perspective that's not American. That feels more natural to me now as an adult than trying to like go back to the US right away.
Right.
Funny.
So what were you studying when you were in university here?
I started out in psychology because at that time I was full-time training for ice dancing, competitive ice dancing in Boucherville. And it wasn't until I quit ice dancing that I then found theater.
And so you found theater. Do you mean that you found like a program of theater, or something happened that you realized that you were passionate about theater? Like, is it a metaphorical found theater, or is it a literal found theater?
I was either going to be an ice dancer or a theater artist coming out of high school. I felt like those two things called to me a lot, and I did have a sort of lifetime of performing dance and things on the ice and stuff. And I also had a quick foray into theater my junior and senior year of this new high school that I was in that was bigger and offered those things. And I landed like Cha-Cha in Grease and Lola in Damn Yankees and felt very comfortable doing these roles. And I was like, I love this, but it was too late to apply to schools and stuff. So finding theater later on after the ice dancing ended was me applying to Concordia, not getting in, going in with like an incredible amount of confidence, like I'm a competitive athlete, I can do Shakespeare. No idea. Didn't even get a call back for their program. Was devastated. Went another year, went to go do nursing at McGill, like started to like start with the process of applying for that. Because by this point I was married. I was married very young. I was married to somebody who was a very serious person and ultimately left ice dancing to become a real estate agent. So we were trying to like make life happen at a pretty young age and buy and sell houses and stuff. I don't know, it's like a different lifetime ago. It's so crazy to think that that's what we were doing at that time. But
and just for anyone who doesn't know out there, Concordia is a university here in Montreal. It has a fantastic arts program.
Yeah, great arts program.
And everyone knows McGill. But
yeah,
just give a Concordia a little shout out. And so you did not get into Concordia.
I did not get into the Concordia theater. I was already in psychology, right? But I did not get into the theater program, and I was devastated, and I was like, I think I need to choose something stable, you know. So I started to go for that, and then about a year later, I took like an amateur for non-actor Concordia class. Patrick Kwok, Shun, Tamara Brown, they were both in that. Eric Hasnot. Anyway, all these amazing. All these people that are now people I know or work with. And
Tamara Brown's going to come up later in the story, but
there she is. Yeah. Anyway, we've acted together now several times. But yes, so I was blown away by this course and then reapplied. But I reapplied for the major just to make sure that I got in somewhere. Got into that and then also applied for the performance, got on a waiting list, and then was able to get into the performance.
Hey.
Yeah. Nice. I cried a lot. I really, really at that point needed an excuse to, and I always have. I'm one of those people that I'm not just like, yeah, I always need an excuse to go out on a limb or be like a risk taker. And I needed the structure. And if I hadn't had the permission to jump in and go full on into this program, I don't know what that would have been for me.
Right.
But I really, really wanted it. And so when I got it, I just cleared the decks and was like all the way in, you know.
I know I can sympathize because I did 3 years of computer science. I don't know if most people don't know that, but I did 3 years of computer science. I wanted to go into theater, but stable job.
Yeah.
Right. But I went to computer science, and by the end of the first year, I had a GPA of 1.9. I was so miserable. I hated the course. I hated the people in it. I hated the teachers. I was so alienated and decided I wanted to switch programs. And so I tried for years to get into film production, and they kept rejecting me.
Super hard program to get into.
Yeah. But in retrospect, I looked at my old portfolios. Good call, Concordia. So,
it takes such a long time for certain people. Like for me, long time. You know,
I did, but then I only just took electives after that because I knew I was going to switch, and if I didn't get into something by the third year, I was going to quit university. But so I just took electives so that I would have those done by the time I switched, and I eventually applied to photography, because my portfolio was stronger, and I got into that. And I remember the moment that I got the letter, and I just ran around my friend's apartment just cheering. It was one of the happiest moments of my life.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you for letting me share that.
Oh my gosh. It's so important those moments it's funny when anyway, they're just so clarifying. They're so clarifying.
And like, it feels like the whole new world of opportunity has opened up.
And it is.
Yeah. And so were the expectations met?
Yes, they were. It entirely changed. I knew that I was heading towards a life that actually didn't suit me, which was a domesticated career woman who was married and gonna eventually have kids and maybe live in the suburbs. And I was just starting to understand that that's what it was, because in my early 20s, and I was going, oh, and reading literature and going, oh, marriage and women's history, women's lib, all these things. And I was like, oh crap, I had no idea. This is gonna change everything for me. And so when that marriage ended, again, very young, and it was a good decision, and we both done the things that we needed to do since. For me, it was like just then kind of years of exploration into what it means to be an independent woman out on her own, being an artist. And that was kind of my main priority for years after that. But so it both blew apart my personal life, but it needed to, because I was 100% going at that. Small town girl, didn't know anything, and was just like, my eyes were widened by the theater world. And I loved the process of rehearsing and using my body, because obviously, like, dance background, I needed something that felt more sustainable, like a reason to be using, like having a full somatic experience while I'm working. So acting made a lot of sense that way. The school itself was like hit and miss, I suppose, from class to class. But I was one of those people that cherished every kind of moment of being there, because it was giving me an excuse to do exactly what I knew I needed to do at that time. So yeah, I freaking loved it.
Sick. And so you finished there. And was it all roses right when you left?
Oh, no. Oh, man. I was going through a divorce. I was very, very poor, asking friends to sort of stay with them, working at the Peel Pub. I mean, but I was getting some roles too. I was getting theater roles and stuff. Right out of school, a thing that happened to me was the mainline theater scene. At that time, there was like Johnny Canuck and the Last Burlesque and these sort of like body cabaret style shows. And I ended up doing sort of leads in some of those. Another story for another time, Julian. No. But there's so many fascinating things that happened at that period of time that were both signals that I, was going in the right direction, and that I had something to offer that people were going to eventually sort of pay me to do. I was getting sort of professional opportunities. But yeah, it's just always really funny those times.
What was, because here everything you're mentioning so far is theater. So,
yeah.
When did you start to break into film and television?
I didn't start breaking into I was horrible for years at film and television. I still don't even know if I've broken into film and television. Like, I do roles, but I'm not like a lead on a series. I'm not a series regular on anything. I'm more like recurring roles. It could happen now. Like, I feel like I'm sort of in my prime now, so now would be a good time to trust me with that sort of thing. It'll happen. It could happen.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah, it took me years. It took me years. I had a lot of trying to understand a dancer's body and being emotionally available by not doing anything, like I to soften myself. It took me years to figure that out. Sounds weird. Everybody's got their own sort of process into finding themselves like open and just there and available. And for me, I was fighting against a lot of like musculature that I could use to do sort of extreme things, but sometimes the most simple things, like just sitting still in front of a camera, were really tricky for me. So it took me a long time to figure that out. I went back to school probably before I figured that out. And I didn't really get into film and TV until I got back from London. Did a stint in Toronto, almost quit acting, almost became an arts educator and moved up north. And then I started to get TV and film. Video games happened in like 2007. That was actually more natural for me. Voice work was more natural for me, and I loved it instantly, and I loved it in school. So I started to develop that at the same time as theater school.
Right. Because looking at your IMDb, I noticed, and I guess I didn't realize. I always imagine that people really start off on camera and then end up into voice. That voice is always kind of like the next supplemental step. And but I noticed that some of your earliest credits are voice work.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what was your first voice opportunity, first voice gig that you realized that you wanted to keep following that?
I already knew that I took a voice class with Nancy Helms at Concordia, one of the acting classes. And it was there that I realized that you could do character voices and that you could get paid for it. I was like, oh my God, what is this? And I made a demo kind of right away from that class, and I thought it was great. I look back and I'm like, oh no, oh no. But I was like just riveted by the fact that I could change my voice and make it old and young and whatever. And I put it out. I sort of started to respond to the little like ads on the billboard, on the little sort of cork boards at Concordia. And the first thing that I landed was Ellen Ash. It was like an Anglo-Franco mashup where it was something like, Ici Ellen Ash, toujours at La Passerelle Bud Light, or something like that. It was, like for the NHL, like Ellen Ash, but she was Anglo and her name was Ellen Ash. Anyway, it was something like that. And it played on the radio, and I was like, it played on the radio. And it was so exciting. It was so exciting because I'd landed these roles and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get paid to act. And so yeah, that was happening like way before TV and film.
Yeah.
Years.
When you get your first paycheck as an actor.
So exciting.
Snap, is it good?
Well,
and I mean, not even good. I don't mean good like in terms of the size of the check. It's just a good feeling.
It's a legitimizing feeling. Yeah. And then there are many versions of that. People are like, when do you make it? You make it in that moment when you're like, yeah. And then you make it again for something else and again for something else.
But you're also quite well known for the video game industry. So where did the video games start for you? What was your first game that you were a part of?
Ooh, my first game would have been probably something like Game Loft. I did a bunch of like little indie games.
Nice. That's how I got my first credit, was doing a Game Loft commercial.
Oh, wow, fun.
Yeah.
Game Loft back when I started was, and I don't know what years you're talking about, probably slightly later than my years, but it was, I guess, it was such a long time ago. It's hard to remember, but I wasn't union or anything. And at that time, I think there was like non-union games that I could do there. Mm-hmm. And I was able to sort of do multiple characters at once. So go in and like try different things. It was my first sort of character acting adventures. My first AAA game where I thought like, I've made it, this is it, was after I was reamping my demo, having a sound engineer help me do this. This was maybe, I guess I was still just I was out of Concordia, but just barely. And I think it was Simon Peacock or something that heard the demo because he knew the sound engineer, and they were looking for a voice match for Angelina Jolie for the Beowulf video game because she'd opted out of the video game. And I was like, ultimately I got invited in to sort of audition for this, and it was enough of a match where they gave me the part, and that gave me my first union credit. And I was like, I've made it. Like you're just like, oh my God. And also it was a voice match for Angelina Jolie, which is like just bizarre, Just like, what is this? Like, anyway, it felt like, because I don't know if you've seen that video game or played that video game. A lot of people haven't. The game was maybe a little glitchy and didn't, it was motion capture at that time. That was like one of the first forays into new technology that they did with the movie. Mm-hmm. Super cool stuff that we've now it's been expanded upon so much, but it's a very sexy role. She's basically like trying to procreate with him. Grendel's mother, she's like trying to seduce him and procreate with him to kill him or like, conquer him. And he has to sort of fight her off. Anyway, that's, if you could imagine multiple versions of Angelina Jolie's sexy voice coming in with an Eastern European accent and then all sort of trying to like, layer upon layer of like multiplying versions of her kind of attacking him. That's what I had to do vocally.
Well, hey, cool. Beowulf.
Oh, hey, cool.
Cool, yeah. That movie scared the crap out of me.
Did it really?
I was not expecting that opening scene. Holy moly, what a scene.
But you didn't play the video game.
I did not play the video game. I know.
Julian.
Well, I didn't know you back then.
No.
Otherwise,
I didn't know myself.
Absolutely. Oh, deep. Oh, man. But subsequently from that, if I may.
If you may.
You know, there are lots of well-known actors in the city.
Actors.
There's a lot of people.
Sorry. I'm so sorry.
How old are you? What is this?
I'm only as old as I want to be right now.
Which is 8, apparently. So there are a lot of, like, you know, well-known actors in the city. Because Montreal is such a big video game industry, you know, one of the biggest in the world.
It's become that, yeah.
Yeah. Few have kind of like notoriety quite like the top video game actors in the city, I think. And I, you know, probably very much against your will, put you up there. Everyone in the city knows you as...
I'm not going to fight you, Julian.
Okay, cool. You've been in so many AAA games at this point. You know, you've been in Far Cry. You've been in, correct me if I'm wrong, you've been in the Far Cries. I think I saw Far Cry Primal. You've been in the Assassin's Creed games, and as well as Rainbow Six. And these are just games that are made out of here. So before we move on from there, like, well, what has it been like now working with companies like Ubisoft and stuff on some of their AAA games?
It's wonderful. I'm just kidding. No, it is. It's great. It's amazing. Video game work, I think I naturally gravitated towards it because it, especially things like motion capture, like I would pitch myself at Ubisoft before I got the first auditions. I pitched myself like at least a year, meaning like I made a compilation tape. I was like, Ubisoft, this is why you should hire me. And I put clips of like ice dancing and theater and like all the things that I could think of together with a sense of humor. And I would send those things as like a kind of demo, but like a plea for give me some auditions. I was very, very ambitious about it when I was getting going there because I really, really wanted to do motion capture. And I thought that video games, the bits that I'd done before going away and doing a master's of classical acting, then coming back and going, motion capture sounds like my version of a new form of acting. And I'm less interested in going to Stratford and more interested in what feels relevant and going to hit a larger audience and where innovation is happening in this way. Not saying that there isn't innovation and incredibly important kinds of acting happening in these other classical spaces, very much. But this kind of thing was more interesting to me at that time. So I really wanted to break into video games. And so I did. I kind of like pursued it more than anything else, I guess. So when I got those first opportunities, I think Hope Jensen in Assassin's Creed Rogue was my first motion capture gig. I was blown away, and I was very, very, very excited. But you know, each audition is a new audition, right? So eventually, I did another Assassin's Creed game, but which was a very different audition. Ash started as a voice audition, and then turned into a voice role, and then 2 years later turned into motion capture. But I had to re-audition for that.
It's a re-audition for
the
voice as well, or they were going to match?
For the whole packet. I had to re-audition to remain Ash for when it turned into full performance capture.
Did you do how did you do research in terms of like probably you had to learn some gun handling and all that kind of stuff? Unless
that happened in the
that.
room. I actually did pursue gun handling on my own. I was Glock certified and stuff from my time in LA, and I didn't get the performance capture for Ash until I'd moved to LA. In fact, I auditioned from my apartment down there, a very tiny little room, very sad, dreary room in Culver City. On my own, just walking around my looked like a prison cell. It was horrible. But, you know, we didn't have to do training there. It was more just acting, which was a sort of, again, what you often see is sort of a hybrid between TV film style and theater, right? It's kind of like that.
May I just say that the words Glock certified are the coolest words I've ever heard you say. I tried to say that with a straight face. Yeah, I'm Glock certified.
Well, I am Glock certified. What can I say? It just means a pistol. It's a pistol. And then when we were in the motion capture room, we had a really awesome person train us for military movements, and I'd spend some time jumping in and out of rooms and infiltrating room closets while I was waiting to shoot.
And what's kind of cool is that the training that you're getting on the job subsequently probably helps getting more jobs, because now you're trained in all those things. So, they see it as you already have the skill set for potentially more roles or something like that.
Yes, totally. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But also, again, I was Glock certified and also had a strong movement background and pushed for it before it happened too.
Yes.
So it's both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a story to share with everyone. We had met, we had gone out for oysters one day. I don't even know really why we met. I think it's because you had seen LARPs and you knew I was in the city and you reached out to me and I was just like, yeah, cool, let's go hang out.
Yeah. When even was that? So many years ago.
Many
but it's
years ago.
Fun. Yeah. It's fun.
And, we became friends. Not necessarily as close as we are today, but we were friendly. We knew each other. And one day I got a message from you.
Uh-oh. What?
And
God,
you said,
did I say?
Hey, Julian, I was wondering if you'd be interested in teaching me about video games.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I said, why would you like that? And you said, because I have something coming up that I can't talk about. And I said, nothing would make me happier. And so I prepared a training regimen of different games to go through. We watched documentaries. We played the Stanley Parable. We played Braid. I wanted to show you 2D, 3D, all this kind of stuff.
Oh my God.
Because I know that you had some experience in gaming, but it wasn't like, it was, I think,
history.
Older school gaming. And then, and I was speculating. I was just like, oh man, so what did she get? I was like, I wonder, what is she doing? Is it Tomb Raider? That's what I thought you were Lara Croft. That was my
awesome.
guess.
Sorry, but that'd be so awesome.
Yeah. But then one day I was sitting at a cafe here, Second Cup on Green Avenue. I had my laptop open and I see a news article that you'd shared that you were the voice of Zelda. And I was like, God damn it.
Didn't see that one coming, did you?
Cool. Well, no, because I didn't even know that Zelda was getting a voice.
Nobody knew. Yeah, I don't know. I auditioned for it, didn't know what it was, and then was like, okay.
So tell me about the process of getting that role.
That came about after working in Montreal, moving to London, doing a Master's of Classical Acting there, then moving to Toronto from there, creating a theater company that was slightly based on the ice, but deciding ultimately that I might quit acting altogether. But then got drawn back into it because I got some theater productions back in Montreal. So I came back to Montreal.
Wow, I skipped a lot here, didn't I? Okay,
no, it's fine. It's sort of a precursor. Like, how did that happen? Mm-hmm. What ultimately happened was after all of this moving around, I got back into acting with a new kind of fervor. And then I realized I had to go to LA. I'm American. I had to go back to the States and I had to figure out what it was that I was so afraid of about LA. Because I was afraid. My sister spent a lot of time there, and I'd watched her be a singer-songwriter in LA for a long time, and I found the culture very tricky. And it's such a large place, and I didn't really know anybody there. My sister had moved away. But I knew that LA held some answers for me in terms of like what I would need to do next to understand my career as an American actor. So I moved there. I just up and moved. But I had some packages, and my sister, who lived there already, knew a casting director and said, hey, Jamie, my sister is an actor already. She's professionally trained. She's got packages. And so he said, yeah. And he listened to me. He's like, I'll get her in for some auditions. And so this is like post, Assassin's Creed Ash, all these things in Canada. But I didn't know what I was auditioning for and ended up in a room auditioning for multiple characters that looked like fantasy-based RPG game. And that was sort of, I think this was as much as I knew. Mm-hmm. I was just like, oh my gosh, this is my first audition down here. Aside from a weird soap opera audition where I blinked on a one-liner, aside from that, don't need to remember that.
We all have those
moments where, with a very long walk of shame out of a very, very, very long hallway and parking lot, like the, awesome Hollywood experience. Aside from that, it was my first audition down there, and I just was like, I got to make a good impression, and so I got my friend from the UK to help me with my RP, and because it said UK fantasy based, like general, kind of, it could be like anywhere around in that map, and went in for the audition, then got a call back for the princess character. And I was like, oh, I would have thought that the warrior-esque character that I auditioned for was the one that I might be more up for, because I was used to doing throaty, low-voiced female warrior characters by this point, and felt like that might be my hit, right? Anyway, I went in and I really tried very hard for this audition, and it turned out that that's what it was. Like, I got the role, and then I was like, oh my God, I got a role in this game. Like, I'm going to work, I'm going to do something down here. Like, I'm going to do there's just like, I'm in the right place. And then signed the NDAs, went in to do their first recording session, and they're like, this is what it is. And I was just like, you're like, what? It's impossible. Like, it's an impossible fucking thing.
They only told you on the first day of recording?
Yeah. Yeah. And it was only the trailer that we were doing. We weren't doing other sessions by that point. It was the E3 trailer for just the open your eyes. Open your eyes. And you didn't even know that it was going to be Zelda's voice at that point. It was just mysterious. It was just like an omnipresent, mysterious voice. So I was just like, and I was like, do you want me to learn Hylian? Do you what? I just like when
I can't teach you that. So, and
they were like, no, we've made our decision, and what you already gave is what we cast. So relax, and
So, game comes out. I mean, first off, the game itself is like legendary. It's touted as one of the best games of all time. You know what I mean? Now, fortunately, there is some controversy surrounding the character of Zelda.
Inevitably.
Anyone would have gotten this because Zelda is a legendary character that's never been voiced before except for the cartoon. And when someone has been voiced, everyone projects their own imagination of what the character sounds like and this and that. And so people are always going to have a reaction when it's not what they imagined. Mm-hmm. But nevertheless, there were people being negative about it. Mm-hmm. Lots being positive.
You end up seeing the negative ones more, though.
Yeah.
And that's, it's funny. It's almost controversial to talking about this is fascinating only because what ends up happening, because I did one interview where I was like, yeah, man, online negativity it's intense when it comes to your way. You need to have thick skin. And I spoke about it for maybe like 10 minutes, kind of a little bit off the cuff with my interviewers. And bless their hearts, fine. But this was like an hour-long interview. The headlines that got put out was like, Patricia speaks out against, online negative, So for some reason, we all gravitate online towards the drama and the negative stuff. And I have to be careful what I say. The thing is, like, I also, that was a super intense time. If I'm being real, so intense. I was like, am I going to work again? If everybody hates me, am I going to work again? And I'm like, I've been an actor for, at this point, like over 10 years. I've done everything. I have done every kind of production, every kind of work. And this one thing, is it going to like break me? Like I didn't know. And at the same time, you're getting like this slosh of people coming at you who want to do interviews and ask you what it feels like to be in this situation. And you're like, it depends on the day. Yeah. It's amazing. It is a roller coaster. And that's how it was. It's like people endow you with things, endow you with some sort of iconic status. They bow to you. They cry. They name their kids after your character. They like all those things. And then on the flip side, people they feel capable of just like bashing down your work or death threats, right? Like death threats. Why would you don't need to, I'm a clean, nice, I'm not a controversial person online. Mm-hmm. In fact, I've made a point of being quite family friendly and trying to kind of stick within brand, because I have a lot of families and family oriented people who will follow me online. And I just want to like keep my personal life sort of separate, like, just like clean professional as much as possible.
Yeah.
A little bit of fun, but, not too much. Yeah. Right? And yeah, nobody deserves death threats. They're horrible.
I will agree with that. But yeah, people, not only are loud voices always negative voices always amplified, because especially now, that's what gets shared. That's what gets tweets.
That's it.
That's what gets whatever.
Yeah, we all know the algorithms skew that way, right?
So that sucks. I'm not going to put that as the title of this. I'm going to put crumb-toothed actress.
Oatmeal pecan flavored interview on your microphone.
Yeah. But along with all that negativity comes I think, like so much positivity in that you were all of a sudden now, and maybe you're already doing it, but probably not to the same level, you're going out to conventions.
Yeah.
And
oh my God. I traveled the world.
Yeah.
It's so much fun. Yeah. It's so cool.
And, you get to a convention. I know that you have a routine when you get to a new convention.
I did. I think I'm going to bring it back.
Please do. What is it?
Jumping on beds in slow motion.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
That was actually nice.
Yeah.
I'm happy I did that.
People like to see that.
It was a way of like marking where I was too, because it gets a little weird. Like you kind of, when you do back-to-back stuff and you're constantly, again, country hopping and then also hopping from city to city, and all the hotels look the same. Mm-hmm. And then the insides of conventions look the same. You remember the people you meet, but you don't necessarily remember where you met them. And then sometimes you see them in multiple. It's so disorienting. Yeah. And the hotel rooms are disorienting. So I'd often be traveling alone and being like, where am I? I don't know.
I assume you don't have a lot of time to explore the cities.
No.
You basically just go in, you do the convention, and you leave.
Unfortunately.
I'm sure, like you said, people cry and name their kids after the character when they meet you. And you've probably got a lot of like that really emotional, positive response.
Yeah, or very sad stuff where you're crying with people because they're like, I lost a friend and my friend was a huge fan of a series, or I lost a parent, or I have a friend who's very sick right now and they can't be here. Can you send a message to them? Mm. And you got to be there. Like you got to be in that, and it's a lot. Yeah. But it's something you take on because it's also amazing that you can have those real wonderful moments, rituals with people.
It's like this like super interesting responsibility that's put onto you, or that's offered to you once you take this role that has, like, you're an actor, and you're doing a job, you're playing a game, and because of the status of that game, this whole responsibility is offered to you.
It's not about me. No. I just put like a little voice. I got asked to do a little voice on top of a 35-year franchise, 36-year, whatever it is now, and because I was the first one, it's sort of. Yeah, it's just like a strange coming together of these circumstances. And it has nothing to do with me. People are celebrating the symbol of the game. They're celebrating having liked it when they were younger, or maybe first, or like playing it with their family. And they just want to celebrate the game with somebody. And I get to be that person a lot of the time. It's pretty rad. But it's also like, it's really not about me. And if I thought it was, I'd be a fool. Yeah. You're part of something larger, which sometimes is beneficial and sometimes kind of odd because you're sort of rigidly in this thing, and people see you this way and they forget that you're all these other things. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Adjusting to that since 2017 has been one of the interesting career things that I've had to do, and I'm still wrapping my brain around it. It changed everything about what I did, like, because it changed the way I circulated through the world. It changed what rooms I was in and who I'd be talking to, and the way that even my friends would treat me sometimes. And like, it's whatever, not that big of a deal. But for me, it was, because it was like I had to sort of reevaluate my relationships with things, as anything that comes into your life will present to you. Yeah. That's like a big sort of new bit of information. Yeah. So there was a lot of information coming at me at that time.
Got it. Like you said, you met a lot of interesting people. You probably met a lot of interesting, other actors and whatever across the world. None as important.
Oh, what's this gonna be? What's this gonna be? Is it very? Oh.
as the great Shang Tsung from Mortal Kombat.
He just reached out and said, happy birthday to me.
Look at
and
this.
I was like, hey, Philip.
Look at that.
He's awesome. He's also a salsa dancer. Did you know? Yeah.
Best gift I've ever received. A signed picture from Shang Tsung.
I get to do this sometimes for people. It's the best. It's one of my favorite things. Yeah.
So I know that you spent a good amount of time straight on the con circuit, and almost like a year or a year and a half straight or something like that. Did that have an effect on you afterwards? Like,
yeah,
was that?
I went through a huge burnout. That's what it did, and it was more than that. And it wasn't like straight on the circuit. It just means that because I have an agent just for conventions, I have a voice agent, and then I have an agent here, right? And so all of those agents go to me. They don't communicate together. Mm-hmm. So I'm the manager of all of those parts of my career, and the convention circuit lasted sort of like at a fever pitch, as far as I'm concerned. Some people have much bigger convention experiences than I do, whatever. But for me, it was like I said yes to everything for a couple of years. And then, so it was like sort of 3 years, and then the pandemic happened. But by that point, at the end of 2019, I was, I really needed to not be traveling so much. Mm-hmm. And I was on the brink of a incredible burnout and a need to sort of reevaluate how I was not taking care of myself because I was traveling too much and trying to say yes to everything, and was starting to feel like disillusioned and not creative. And that was really scary because I thought, and part of it was like I was traveling too much and I was doing too much extroverted stuff when I'm actually just more of an introvert and I need more time by myself and to slow down.
So
how is this for you? Are you enjoying this?
Barely.
Okay. I figured.
Since then, one could assume that getting Zelda
one could assume. Sorry. I only do that. I don't interrupt people all the time.
You've made fun of me multiple times.
I have, haven't I?
No.
But it's so easy.
But I've called you
I know,
Teeth
because,
multiple times.
Yeah, you call me Carmen.
Yeah. Yeah, one could assume that getting Zelda as a role is opens up a lot of opportunities for new games and all that kind of stuff. So you've still been performing in games, and you continue to, right? A game just got released recently, I think.
Deceive Inc. Inc. Oh yeah, I love games. I still work in games, but it's not. I don't. Does it open up? It does open up doors very much, but maybe not in the way. You're always just auditioning, and you're often auditioning anonymously. And I'm auditioning a lot in LA through an agent. And down there, I mean, you can throw a stone and hit a person who's done 1,000 games. Like it's the pool that I'm trying to audition against, or not against, because it's not a competition. It's where you're inserted into these rooms. I really don't. It's not useful to think of these things competitively, personal goals, but like who I need to kind of lift myself up into these different, like just incredible actors. Like, and now as the field becomes more saturated, a lot of people actually start voice acting younger because it's an actual career and you know about it, and like people can study it online. God, we didn't have that when we were younger, and it's super amazing. It is a game changer. Also, during the pandemic, a lot of stuff changed in terms of who could work from where, of course, right? So 2020, like I put a studio in my place. Never was going to do that. Never. I wasn't for me. But then out of total necessity, I had to. And that was a game changer. So it's that stuff that makes a difference in terms of what games or things that I've auditioned for, as much as the Zelda thing. That thing, Zelda's now like, 6 years old?
Yeah.
6 years old. 6 years ago.
Yep. Film is still working for you. You were recently in Three Pines.
Three Pines, which is TV.
Which is TV. So I'm sorry, everyone. It was TV. And alongside Tamara Brown and some other fantastic Montreal actors.
Yeah.
Max Laferriere, Claire Coulter, a legend.
Oh, she is one of my all-time favorite
she's
actors,
incredible,
and Canadian actors. But
But unfortunately, that show did not get renewed.
Nope.
Which is unfortunate because it was actually a really good show. So I really enjoyed it, and it was fun to see so many Montrealers
there.
on
And
there.
there were some just powerhouse talents and incredible performances in that series.
Yeah.
That show came about at a time I auditioned for it while I was taking a break from acting. I had chopped my hair. I was like taking essentially a mental health reevaluation of everything that I was doing. I was really into screenwriting. And it was one of the things over the summer while I was taking a micro program at Concordia for screenwriting and film production, which was awesome. It was exactly what I needed because I also love writing and making music and all that stuff. But it was weirdly, I think I got that part because I cut my hair and I was like, screw what I think I need to do to be on film right now. I'm just going to take a break. I'm going to just change what I need to, just be raw and easy for a while. It's still in the middle of the pandemic. And then I auditioned, I saw the character description and I was like, I think I should audition for this. And I got it. And then it was like I was filming all autumn. So you never know where these things are going to come from. But what I can say is that I think so often we get disillusioned with where we are. There are ebbs and flows in every career over and over and over again. That would be a perfect example of a funny ebb that turned into like a flow, I guess.
I find that
out of nowhere.
A lot of actors, or I should say even mine, best auditions are when we're at a point where we're just like, screw it.
Yeah.
Because it frees you. It frees you from being so precious with something.
Yes.
And then that's when authenticity comes out.
That is when authenticity comes out.
Yeah.
But I think it also comes out after years and years of training too.
Yes.
So it's a combination of both of those.
Not to belittle your training.
I keep on saying training, but like people just think like these things don't come out of the blue. And when people are often like thrust into positions, they're doing it for years. Like it's so this whole sort of success story thing. Like yes, for some YouTubers and some certain people that does happen, but for the grand majority of people, it's like years and years and years of layering your work. And then you find yourself in just out of like, let's say par hasard, or like naturally find yourself into certain spaces, right?
Yeah. So you mentioned something, and I was very excited to bring it up. Acting is not your only passion. You also make music.
I do, yeah.
So with the Summersett Band.
I do.
You showed me our ending in the stars. You poured me wine and said, that's all you are.
Summersett Band is a piano voice duo. My creative partner, Nick Carpenter, is a playwright, and we've been friends. We dated years back. Not recently. We just decided to be creative partners forever, if we can, because we have created this wonderful dialogue and shorthand about stuff that we create. So we've created a lot of different things in the past, but like one of the things that we do is this band, and so we're about to release a second album, May 16th. I've just dated this podcast.
The podcast might not already be out.
It might not already be out, but then you can go check it out at somersetband.com. Doesn't even matter. It's very freeing to make music that doesn't need to be anything, and that's part of what music is for me. It's like art folk music. Nick has a sort of classical background. I don't play an instrument, but when Nick and I compose stuff together, we put it through the Nick and Patricia sort of channel. Either a song starts from him or myself, and then we both work on it. And then we have a band which has excellent people in it, 2 other singers, Holly Gauthier-Frankel, Eric Davis, both actors and voice artists and the works, excellent people. And then we also play with a drummer and a bassist who are awesome, and then string players, violin and cello. So it's like 8, which is impossible to tour with. It's not a very practical thing, but it is one of the most satisfying parts of being just a creative person, like just throwing it out there and making stuff that I'm not getting paid for, and I'm not, at the whim of anybody else's desire of what it needs to be. It's just like we make it because we want to make that.
Like you said, there are a lot of young people now looking to get into video game acting because it's a new option for them, really. What kind of advice can you offer them based off your experiences, something that you wish you'd known back then? You know, maybe not necessarily a technical skill or how to get, but like an emotional piece or something that you can offer them.
Well, like number one, it's acting. You have to be able to analyze a script. You have to understand story arc, story type, and you need to be able to take direction. You need to be able to work with people in a room, in an ensemble, and read the room. It's so important. And show up on time, meaning early. Do not flake out on people, because the people that you are going to be working with now, or even your colleagues, are going to be your biggest allies or people that may hire you later or determine whether or not you get a job or get to do some sort of inspiring new ensemble work. You just, I don't know. I feel like those things are all very basic, and yet we live in a funny world where so much of it is done digitally and virtually, and the rules are changing. Those rules don't change. And I think for younger people now, there are so many avenues on how to get into voice acting and how to audition and present your material. And there are lots of resources out there. I could recommend a few of them actually right now. Julie Bianco Shuffling, there's a book I'm reading right now. I've worked with her before. She's awesome. It's like How to Act in Video Games. This is just a new book, just all this stuff is actually quite new, and people are learning it now, and people are becoming new experts on it now because they've been doing it for 20 years, and they're like, okay, this is what I've learned, and this is what you can. So there are books, there are incredible podcasts. This could be one of them. I don't know what else you've done for interviews,
we'll see.
Yeah. But at the basis of everything is really, it's acting and acting.
Yeah. Awesome. Patricia, thank you so much for coming today.
Oh, Julian, thank you for having me.
You got something? That was Patricia Summersett. Now, something that Patricia couldn't share at the time was that she's actually reprising her role as Zelda in the new Tears of the Kingdom game, out now. And as she mentioned, the Summersett Band is releasing their new album on May 16th. We're getting a little taste of it under my voice as I speak. If you would like to check out their music, I've left a link in the show notes. If you're enjoying these episodes, it would really help us out if you liked and shared and commented and reviewed and followed us on whatever platform you might be listening or watching on. As always, thank you very much for joining, and we will see you in the next one.
Follow me to the trail.